So welcome back to a new video. Today I'm going to do something a little bit differently. I've noticed that there are a ton of threads, questions, and some answers on several different forums like Reddit and the gear page, where it's like, place to put your stupid questions, or no judgment, ask your embarrassing questions here. So I thought, actually, that might be a good video series. If I could take some of those questions that maybe newer players or people that are just now getting into effects or haven't used effects that much in the past. There's a lot of questions that people in that situation just simply may not know and may not want to ask because they don't want to get flamed. So let's talk about that. Let's run through a couple different drives, distortion, fuzz. I'll explain what those knobs do, basically. So this is not going to be an engineering talk. This is going to be more of a guitar player to guitar player talk. So if you're familiar with this stuff already, you may not want to see this video. Just simply stop here and go to the next one. It'll be something different next week, I'm sure. But for those of you who do have the question, I think hopefully this might give you a lot of value. So, all right, for this particular video, I am going to use the MXR Distortion 3, the OD3 from Boss, the Big Muff Electro Harmonics, and then we have a Clarksdale. It's ours that we make, and it's based off of like a tube screamer type of circuit, so it's a lighter gain. So distortion kind of ish, even though it's called an overdrive, it's more like an overdrive into distortion. Fuzz, lighter overdrive. And let's talk about some of these controls as well. We have output on here, level on here, volume. They're all the same thing. They all control the output volume, the total volume of the effect. Distortion, drive, sustain, gain, all the same thing. Basically, they're all going to go from minimum amount of distortion to maximum amount of distortion. Now, since they are overdrive, distortion, and fuzz, without getting too technical, think of it this way. An overdrive is like a light distortion. Distortion would be medium gain, and then fuzz would be super high gain, but raspy and not really tight. So not like a like a 5150 or anything like that. More raspy and I hate to use this as a descriptor, but fuzzy, but still very hard clipping. So distortion is actually clipping. And then tone control. So we do have a tone. We have, I think that's, that OD3 is a tone. On the Clarksdale, we have bass, mids, and treble. Now on the Clarksdale, the treble is actually the tone control circuit from the actual tube screamer circuit. So even though it's called a treble, it's actually changing the treble. That's why I called it treble rather than tone. And for, less confusion. So there's just bass, mids, and treble. It's just a little bit simpler to understand. They all do them a little bit differently with the exception of the Distortion 3 and the Clarksdale. That tone and treble kind of work in the same way electronically. The OD3, I believe that's just passive, so whenever it's just taking away highs. Now, as a user, you don't need to know that because it's got plenty of highs to spare, so as you roll it up, it's still going to get pretty bright. The Big Muff actually goes into two different types of filters, and not to get too far off in nerd land here, but when it's down, it's real bassy and no highs, and when it's up, there's not a lot of bass at all, and it's very high and a lot of crispy, high frequency content. Also, you notice the switches. Every pedal does something a little bit differently. On the Clarksdale, it's changing diode, so it's going to change the texture of that clipping, the texture of that gain. On the Big Muff, it's going to take the tone stack or the tone control section out of the circuit, giving you more gain, but no control over the tone. And then the Wicker is basically just kind of changing the sound of that tone stack with some different values. Let's do a quick demonstration. I've tried to set the volume at what people call unity volume, which is my clean tone. I'm trying to set the volume of my pedal the same to my ear as what I hear with my clean tone. So you'll also notice that the levels aren't the same either. So the output, the level, the volume, they're not at noon. So I would highly recommend, it's not going to hurt anything, but please don't expect every pedal when set at noon to be unity volume. It just doesn't work that way. It's all completely dependent on what type of circuit is in the pedal. So always set that to your ear. So let's start with the Distortion Plus, or Distortion 3 rather. I'm going to turn the distortion knob down. So it's adding or taking away distortion. Same thing with the tone control. Adding or taking away high frequencies. On to the OD3. With that drive down. And then the tone control. So plenty of highs there. And then on to the big muff, which is going to be a fuzz. And I roll that sustain knob down, which is, again, gain knob. And also, if you listen, you'll hear a hiss in the background. That's normal for any high gain device, anything that's adding gain, because whatever noise is present in your signal chain, in this instance I have fluorescent lights around me, and on some nasty electricity in a barn, basically, with the room built inside of it. So there's going to be some noise in here. That's just amplifying whatever noise is present in the chain. It's something you're always going to have to kind of deal with whenever you're using gain pedals. Or really, an amp with gain in it. Same thing with if you're using an amp with gain in it. Any noise there gets amplified. On to the Clarksdale. Gain all the way down. And in the case of the Clarksdale and other pedals that have more EQ on it, you have more options. So we can add or take away mids. Or bass. Way more than what you'd probably ever need, or treble, of course. Alright, so that kind of covers dirt pedals. We'll run through a couple different types of pedals as well and explain those. Okay, so let's move on to modulation. So what we have, three different types of effects. More of a, I would call this more of a univibe sort of thing, like a rotary speaker type of effect, a chorus effect, and a flanger, or flanger, as I've heard people call them. Let's talk about controls. Intensity, speed, and volume on the TC Electronic. You can also switch from, like, they call it a chorus, to like a vibrato, which is just the pitch vibrato moving up and down. To me, it still sounds more like a univibe type thing. Chorus, we have a rate, a depth, and a tone. Don't worry about that switch because we're not running stereo. If we were running stereo, it would kind of change the phase of one of the amps. On the flanger, we have a resonance, I think that's what that's called, resonance and a manual, and a depth, a rate, and another switch that goes into several different modes. And that can actually get a little confusing to those new to effects. So the best way to actually demonstrate that particular effect is to play through it. So let's do it. Let's start with Flanger. So, and that's, again, depth is all the way up. We don't have, well, actually, it's not all the way up. Let's go even farther. Might find a little more use for your musical needs with it down a little bit. All right, let me turn this up just to show you. The manual is going to kind of change, the best way to describe it, it's going to kind of change the area that's affected. So I'm up all the way, let me turn it down. Up, all the way up. So if you listen real close, it's almost like the note itself, the flanging part, kind of has a higher frequency content when you turn it up. So let's got a little flaky switch or something. It's probably these cheap little connectors I got right there. All right, so let me turn the resonance. So as you can see, it's almost like a rate within itself. If we turn the, not a rate, I'm sorry, the depth within itself. That's with the depth all the way down. So they both are kind of changing the depth in different ways to give you different sounds. And just for fun, if you want to turn the rate up. I guess you would use that if you're making space ray gun effects. I don't know. All right, and let's go on to the chorus. On this one we have a tone, so you get a little brighter when it's up, a little darker when it's down. Not dramatic, just a little bit. The depth. So that depth of that chorus is deeper. That's a horrible way to describe it, I know. But it's just more chorus. And rate, of course, is the speed of that. And just for a little hint, some people like to take a chorus and kind of get sort of like a sort of more like a rotary Leslie type of sound, a rotating speaker type sound. So that's a cool effect with the chorus. Let's go on to the vibe. We have a speed of chorus. The intensity is kind of like the depth on this. go to vibrato. So now we're actually hearing the note kind of pitch up and down a little bit. So that's vibrato for you. So what else we got? Let's talk about compression real quick. All right, so for this example, I'm going to use our Ego compressor. Most compressors are going to be pretty similar unless they're like a studio type. So some of them will have a threshold and some other features that I would not recommend starting out with that if that's your first compressor. In fact, probably like a MXR Dynacomp is a good one if you just want a very simple compressor, or a Boss CS3, another great compressor if you're just getting into pedals. I don't necessarily believe that you should buy like the most expensive thing you can find until your ears really get tuned into what you like. So with that said, we have a volume, sustain, attack, a tone, and a clean blend. So let me dive into that. So compressors, let's start with the attack all the way down, sustain all the way up. I have the clean blend basically off, so it's just compression at this point. Without it, it's a lot about dynamics and how the note carries on. So here's without it. Now let's turn it on. You'll notice that the volumes that are lower, it's going to bring up. The volumes that are higher, it's going to bring down, compressing things. And it's trying to keep everything kind of at the same level. So you may have to adjust your volume to taste, again, to ear, to get that unity volume. But here we go. You'll notice a huge loss in dynamics. And of course, the sustain is building and building and building, so it's sustaining that note. It's also a little bit darker. That's the way that this type of compression circuit is. So I added tone control that affects that compressed circuit, so we can make it a little brighter again. And you know, like in the 90s, there was compression, like real heavy compression was used a lot in the country world. So just for stuff like that, just makes things pop quite a bit more. But we don't really need that all the time. So let's talk about sustain. I kind of explained that. That's just like more compression. Think of that as more compression. So when you turn that sustain down, and then the attack, well, for demonstration purposes, I have it all the way down. Let's turn it to, that's a faster attack. Slower attack is up here. You'll notice in this, it'll be, there's more of a snap to it. And that's that slower attack. So if you want it just a little bit more, if you don't want to hear that initial snap, then roll that attack back on your pedal, or you know, lower, whichever way the particular compressor you're using, put it on the lower version. The blend, so the blend goes all the way from a completely clean you can kind of blend in your compressed setting. And the reason why that's useful is because you can get your natural dynamics. It's not squashing that initial signal as much. Well, it is, but you're still hearing the blend of your natural unaffected signal with it. So you get the sustain and you get a little bit more of the natural, a little bit more of that natural, you know, picking feel, I guess is a good way to put it. So, and that initial attack of hitting the string. All right, let's go on to delay. Okay, so now we're on to delay. I have a Source Audio Nemesis delay. I have a Strymon L Capistan, or Capistan, or however you choose to pronounce it. And controls are pretty similar, even though they're labeled differently. Somewhat similar. With the Nemesis, you actually have a bunch of different types of delay. So tape, which has a specific sound, analog, which is a little darker, diffuse, a digital, which is real crispy, slapback, which is lower, but basically all different types of delay sounds. On the El Capistan, you don't have that on this particular model, but it's got some other things like multi-heads, and I'll show you some of that stuff in a minute. They both have mix, so you can go from none of that delay mixed in to basically the same, what I would call 50-50. So the same volume as your guitar, you're going to have the same volume of delay sound as what your clean tone is. I would call that 50-50. You can back that off, or you can have completely wet, which means it's nothing but delay. For example. So that's just the delayed note, where if I bring my regular signal back in, and tape age on here is going to be kind of like, it's going to darken things up, whereas intensity on the Source Audio is going to kind of do the same thing, make it darker or brighter. Feedback is the number of repeats, so again, let's show you that. So 1 all the way to basically infinity before it starts kind of doing what they call like a takeoff effect. So yes, that can be fun to play with. There's some pedals that actually will have that feature, like just on a switch itself, and it's fun to play with. And then on the Nemesis, it has modulation, and I'll show you what that is in a second. On the El Capistan, they call it a wow and flutter. All right, so let's start with the Source Audio. I don't want to get too deep into, you know, nerding out on all these options when it could be overwhelming if this is your first time seeing a delay pedal. So most delay pedals, simple, especially inexpensive ones, are just going to be 1 or 2 different sounds with a few of the basic controls. So I have the modulation completely off. Let me turn some of that modulation on and the rate of it. I'll make it exaggerated. And to kind of give you an idea what it's doing, let me exaggerate that even more. So depth all the way up. Now keep in mind, this may not be a good sound, but it'll give you an idea of what's happening. So it's almost like, it's sort of like a chorus effect just on the echo parts. In the idea that you're trying to give it a little bit of space and just kind of fill out the sound a little bit. It's a cool sound. All right, intensity, turn it all the way up. I'm going to turn the feedback up so you can hear a little more. Turn it all the way down. So it's going to make it kind of more like a crispy, bright sort of delay sound versus a little bit darker. And just kind of to run through a few of these options real quick so you can kind of get an idea of the different types of delay sounds. Diffuse. We'll go to digital. So very crisp sounds. Slapback's going to be kind of a quicker feature. There we go. So you can use that if you want. I just usually adjust the time on the sound of the delay that I want myself. So all right, let's go to what's rhythmic do. It's been so long since I played this, I forget. So that's sort of like a multi-head thing. Sweeper. That's cool. So it's adding sound like a phase type of effect on top of the echo itself. I know that sounds weird, that's because I'm changing the time. Then reverse is probably a reverse echo. So it's basically a backwards delay. Interesting. I'm not sure how to describe that one, but it's cool. Turn that time up a little bit. Alright, that's one way to do it. Degrade. Ah, that's cool. It's adding a little bit of light distortion on it. Noisy tape. Alright, that's fun. Let's go into the El Capistan. Once I hit the tap. So tape age all the way down. way up, so it's a little bit backwards. Up is darker, down is brighter. Wow and flutter is going to be like that modulation. And then let's see, let's go to fixed. In mode A, now mode B. Mode C. Alright, so it's changing the length of the echo, sounds like. Let's go to multi, back to A. B. Oh yeah, that's that multi-head there. You hear several different delays jumping in. If I turn the repeats down, you'll hear it a lot better. Mode A. Mode C. So yeah. Then single. Obviously a long delay. Mode A. Okay, so let's change the length of the echo. And a cool feature on actually the Capistan is you can hold these two buttons down and add in reverb as well. So that's kind of a cool feature. All right, now, so that's the delays. One more thing before we get out of here, and that is just a simple reverb. So let's check that out. Okay, so reverb pedal. There's all different types of reverbs. There's spring, there's plate, there's halls, there's convolution reverbs, which I won't get into that. That's another topic for another day. But basically, a lot of amps will come with reverb, and you're totally fine to use it. It's a spring type. So it sounds, it has what people refer to as a spring type reverb. And for some, that's really cool. It actually can be a pretty cool like surf tone. And yes, I realized that was King of the Hill and not surf. Alright, so let's talk about the reflection. I have it on plate setting, and it's just a different style of reverb, basically. Now with this particular pedal, and most reverb pedals will have similar features, there's a pre-delay, there's a decay, or it could be called time, how much reverb, the length of reverb you want, the tonality of just that reverb. And on this one I have sort of a spring emulation and a plate style, plate being a different style of reverb. So to compare it to that spring you just heard, or you can take almost like an infinite type of reverb with this style. Alright, let me back that delay off a little bit, and the pre-delay rather. Now what that's going to do is, whenever you hit the note, it's going to add a small amount of delay in there, just a small space before the reverb kicks in. So right now I have none on. Now if I turn it all the way up, again all the way back down, all the way back up once again. So you can hear there's just a small little space there before the actual reverb echoes kick in. And just for the fun of it, here's the spring on this. Turn that pre-delay down. That's quite a bit of delay to a reverb too. And the tone control, that's making that darker versus really bright. All right, so that's some of the most common pedals that most newer players are kind of looking at. Some sort of dirt, overdrive, distortion, or fuzz, maybe some compression, maybe some sort of modulation. So we looked at chorus, we looked at flanger, we looked at more like a univibe or Leslie rotary type of thing. We also looked at a couple different delays and a reverb. So what I'd love to hear your thoughts on what other types of things that you might need help with. Maybe it's explaining, another type of effect and how it works, or how you can use it, or maybe you have a question such as, whenever I plug in my barrel, my plug into my jack, do I need to take out the battery in here? Does that cause problems? So it's questions like that on this particular series that I'm really wanting to help those who have those sort of questions really kind of answer that and take care of that stuff. So I'd love to hear your thoughts below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week with a new video.